So today I want to talk about how not to respond to a cybersecurity incident, an alleged attack or a real attack. And I'm going to use as a case study the Sellafield Nuclear Site in Cumbria in the UK, which is the site of perhaps the biggest industrial nuclear waste site across the whole of Europe, full of toxic nuclear details. It's also the site that contains disaster recovery plans for the whole of the UK in the case of a nuclear incident. So if you can imagine, it's of huge interest to our enemies. Last year, just before Christmas, The Guardian alleged that they'd been hacked badly, that the Russians and Chinese had complete access to their systems, that this has been going on for years. They had persistent malware in their devices, and actually since about 2015 they've been unable to get it out. The Guardian also reported that this is not particularly new news, in fact, because the Office of Nuclear Regulation, the ONR, had also said that they were red for cybersecurity. They were having to have closely managed and monitored performance, and it was simply unacceptable, the level of security that they currently had for their IT systems. Now, this is very sensitive. The minister herself got involved and said, I need explanations for this. But what did the government, and in particularly Sellafield themselves, say? Well, they gave, in my view, a case study on how not to respond. And this is what they said. They put a press release on the government website's response to a news report on cybersecurity at Sellafield. We have no evidence of any hack, they claimed. Our monitoring systems are brilliant and we have a high degree of confidence that no such malware exists on our systems. The Guardian was all aware of all this and they published anyway. And we take cybersecurity extremely seriously at Sellafield. All of our systems are multiple layered protection and critical network isolated are there. So an attack on our IT systems wouldn't attack anything. And in fact, separately, they said there was no danger to the public because of these IT attacks. So let's go through some of these things just line by line. They claim that they've not been hacked. They say they have no evidence of that. Well, actually, the best in the world have been hacked. Google's been hacked. Microsoft's been hacked. The US government has been hacked via Microsoft. So if all those best in the world companies and nation states have been hacked, what's the chances that an organisation in Sellafield that's already on the critical list and failing hasn't also been hacked, especially when it's of such interest to foreign adversaries? In fact, we've all been hacked. I can't even confidently say that my own laptop doesn't have monitoring software. If a nation state was sufficiently interested in me, I'm sure they could do that and I wouldn't necessarily know about it, even if I had all the latest patches and security software on my laptop. So don't say that you've got a high degree of confidence that no such malware exists on your system. You just can't know. And actually what you're saying is that you really just don't know what you're talking about when you say things like this. The Guardian also accused Sellafield of having a really bullying culture. Well, don't shoot the messenger if somebody's telling you that. That's the worst thing. You're sort of almost reinforcing the fact that you have a very macho culture that doesn't brook any dispute. And don't say you take cybersecurity really seriously when it's clear that you don't really know what you're talking about. One of the fallacies that's put in this press release is that we have an isolated system and therefore we can't be attacked. Well, the Iranian nuclear program was attacked. Stuxnet in 2010 was attacked despite it being an isolated system. And in 2015, perhaps the most infamous attack of all time in cyber, when the US government's tailored operations executive, the elite of people doing cyber warfare, they had all their secrets stolen despite it being on a totally isolated network. So this perimeter security model really doesn't work. And if you say I'm safe because I've got a perimeter security model, what you're really saying is that first of all I don't know anything about cybersecurity, and secondly I'm not taking it particularly seriously, in fact. So what should you do instead? Well, I've got a few points here about what you should do to help get yourself in a good place so that if you are hacked, you can actually do something better about it. So here's what to do instead. First of all, be open about cyber risks. Don't say things like we're totally secure, because nobody is. Admit that very bad things might happen. If you're looking after toxic nuclear waste, there's a clear risks there, and some of those risks will be related to the security of your IT systems. Be open about that. And if you need more money to get those things doing that, and the government doesn't give you that money, then actually the government has owned that risk, but the key is to make it explicit. Secondly, admit that you're not perfect. Really mature companies at cybersecurity like Google and Microsoft sort of give themselves about 4 out of 5 on the security maturity scale. Well, don't claim to be a 5 if you're clearly not as good as them. Actually admit that this is all about a journey, it's a continual improvement. And as I said earlier, don't shoot the messengers. If you're being reported in the press, ask to know more, don't deny it. And similarly, if the regulator says that your cybersecurity isn't good enough, agree with them. Don't try and contradict them and have a public argument with your regulator. Hire a competent CISO or somebody else who can give the chief executive good advice so that he doesn't embarrass himself in public by making some of the statements that I've highlighted here. Better still, use that CISO to get a proper disaster recovery plan in place that includes PR. Now, obviously, disaster recovery isn't just about PR. You need to have a plan for recovering from what the worst does happen. Anything from a nuclear accident down to an alleged breach, which is what this is, and have pre-prepared statements. And you'll have much better statements if you do them in a calm atmosphere rather than trying to write them at 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And you'll come out looking better at it. And in fact, sometimes breaches like this can actually lead to better outcomes because people do take things more seriously like that. So a disaster recovery plan is a really important part, and it's important it includes public statements, bringing stakeholders with you so they can work collaboratively with you to repair whatever damage has been done. So I hope that gives an overview of, first of all, how not to respond to a cyber attack or a report of a cyber attack, and how to get on the front foot so that if it ever does happen to you, you can respond well. So if you need help writing a really good disaster recovery plan that includes public statements so you can bring stakeholders with you, please don't hesitate to get in touch.